everyone. Nice to see you all here in person and online. I'm the club historian and I work at the Smithsonian, and I try to do a timely talk each month. Today, I thought we would celebrate Earth Day, which, as many of you know, is coming on April 22nd here in the US and is actually celebrated on that date in many other countries as well. So I just wanted to share a little bit about the origins of this event. I'm quoting primarily from a blog post by a colleague of mine at the National Museum of American History named Joan Boudreau. So what would you have done if you saw your river burning? The Cuyahoga River that runs through the northeastern corner of Ohio was so polluted in the 1950s and 60s that fish populations were decimated because of the river's oily industry-produced pollution. In 1969, with a spark from a train traveling nearby, the river began to burn. Earth Day founder Gaylord Nelson was inspired by the burning of this river and other environmental disasters of his day, including an enormous oil spill off the coast of Southern California the same year in 1969. He had served as governor of Wisconsin and then became a US senator, and he founded Earth Day in 1970. He had cared about the environment since childhood, and as a senator reported that he was inspired to break from the, quote, frontier philosophy that the content was put here for our plunder, unquote. Nelson's heritage and upbringing had allowed him opportunities to regularly interact with nature in his native Wisconsin. The realization that his earth was being destroyed by pollution, deforestation, DDT use, and other devastating occurrences inspired his political movement, involvement, and environmental activities. In the early 1960s, Nelson was intent on creating the momentum for a grassroots movement to promote resource conservation. He was inspired by and partnered with contemporary public advocates for social change. The thriving American economy of the post-war 1950s and 60s, along with increased leisure time, had put pressure on parks and recreation areas to the detriment of natural resources. Nelson's philosophy, responding to these circumstances, included an interest in the concepts of not just survival, but, quote, decency and mutual respect for all creatures. Nelson became convinced that the purchase of land for future parks and recreation purposes was the first best step toward these larger environmental goals. So he introduced a bill to save the Appalachian Trail, which by the early 1960s had become segmented and in some places inaccessible because of privately held lands and parkway construction. He was also involved in the Outdoor Recreation Act, whose main objective was also the purchase of land for parks and recreational purposes. Nelson believed that congressional support, he was a senator, remember, was imperative. He gave a speech in Denver, Colorado on the first Earth Day, which was held April 22nd, 1970, and I will just quote a couple of excerpts here. I think these will resonate and sadly are all too true still 53 years later. Quote, Earth Day is dramatic evidence of a broad new national concern that cuts across generations and ideologies. It may be symbolic of new communication between young and old about our values and priorities. Earth Day can, and it must, lend a new urgency and new support to solving the problems that still threaten to tear the fabric of our society. The problems of race, of war, of poverty, of modern day institutions. Ecology is a big concept, big science. It is concerned with the total ecosystem, not just with how we dispose of our tin cans, bottles, and sewage. Winning the environmental war is a whole lot tougher challenge than winning any other war in the history of man. Our goal is not just an environment of clean air and water and scenic beauty. The objective is an environment of decency, quality, and mutual respect for all other human beings and all other living creatures. Our goal is a new American ethic that sets new standards for progress, emphasizing human dignity and well-being, rather than an endless parade of technology that produces more gadgets, more waste, and more pollution. Are we able to meet the challenge? Yes. We have the technology and the resources. Are we willing? That is the unanswered question, unquote. Earth Day spawned, of course, many environmentally directed activities in the ensuing months and years, including the establishment of the Tallgrass Prairie Historical Preserve that year. For the first anniversary in 1971, the New York Times reported that bicyclists rallied to oppose auto emissions. The citizens of Ann Arbor, Michigan had planted an organic garden. And, quote, what was more to the point, there was increasing evidence that the ecological issues had in the last year taken on new importance where it counts in Congress. Nelson received the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 1995 for his contributions to the environment. But of course, he did not act alone. He and many others during and since his time have successfully laid the groundwork for the continued grassroots advocacy for environmental protection. In honor of Earth Day, millions of individuals and organizations across the globe participate in and sponsor events to encourage people of all ages and backgrounds to appreciate, support, nurture, and defend the environment. So as members of the Rotary Club of Washington, D.C., through our Trees for the Capital campaign, as well as other local, national, international service events, and of course, all of our fellow Rotarians who are here in person online, we are all part of Rotary International's commitment to protecting the environment. So let's celebrate Earth Day with a promise to live up to our motto of service above self and do something not just today, but every day to make our planet a little better. Thank you.